Hello, everyone, and welcome to Emerge and Empower with your host, Dr. Lin J. How are you? I pray that you and yours are well. And what a week it has been. I'm giving you time to come on in, bring your friends, bring everyone. As you can see right here with me, a lot has happened in this 1 week since we were on the live. A lot has happened, a lot has transpired. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for your votes of confidence, for believing in me in this journey that I've had here. As you can look behind me, these are journeys of my Mrs. South Florida plus America journey of 2 years. And I have been wearing my crown and sash for the past 2 years. And oh my God, on last week, I had the opportunity to become the very first ambassador for South Florida Plus pageant. And what a blessing it has been. This allows me to also have the opportunity to go to state, all right, to go into state. And I just really thank each and every one of you. And I know you will continue to be with me in my journey. Now, you know, your girl does not have an issue with the gift of gab, but it seems like I always have an issue when it comes to introducing myself. I am not big on introducing myself. I'll spend time introducing others, but I get tongue twisted and tongue tied when I have to come on and introduce myself. Oh my God, why is that? Why is that? Right? And I'm very confident, but at the same time, we could be people, person. We could be public figures, but there are certain times where the jitters come in and the nerves come in. And when it comes to rehearsing, I can flow. But when it comes to rehearsing, it seems like that is not mine. Okay. That seems to be a faux pas. But I thank the Lord that I was much bolder this year. Last year I had pain in my legs. Y'all know how it went, but we thank God for this year that it was much smoother onto this year. But I get tongue twisted from Miss to Mrs. And it was like, what? I've been a Mrs. for 31 years, but I've never actually said it, the word. People said it to me, so now I have to practice saying Mrs. South Florida, Mrs. And then it's either Miss, Ms. But somehow that seems to be that one word for me because I think everybody has that one word. And I was contemplating last night and I said, that must be my one word that I have difficulty with. It's the simplest thing sometimes that we cannot enunciate. All right. But we thank God for what He's done. I thank Him for His presence. I thank Him for the works that He has done in my life. I thank God. I thank God. I thank God. But today, as you know, we are in the month of May. May has brought so much. Okay, May has brought so much with it, and a lot of it has been good, 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 good. Like my theme says, something good is going to happen in this year, and it's been a flow of such things. Does it mean other things doesn't happen? Does it mean losses doesn't happen? Does it mean, yes, they still happen? But we always have to stay on the positive side. And I want to thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you once again for your support. Oh my God, I could not have done this without your support. So at this time, as you know, we're in the month of May, right? And I'm bringing all the mothers on and their stories to inspire you. There are mothers like you, okay, that have gone through some of the things that you've already experienced, or maybe you're experiencing those things right now at this time in your life. So this is one of the reasons why I have the mothers come on so we can share the mothers' stories on today with each and every one of you so that we can flow accordingly. So I have a special guest that came on today that will be sharing our story. So show some love, show some love, show some love. Share, 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 share. What you waiting for? Start sharing. Don't wait until it get good. Start sharing now. Share it in your group. Share it with your friends. Share it everywhere. And say, Dr. Lin J is on with Emerge and Empower, bringing to you mothers during this month of Mother's Day celebration. Remember, I'm between Mother's Day. We've celebrated the traditional Mother's Day, and then we're going to celebrate Haitian Mother's Day, which is the fourth Sunday of this month. All right. So I'll come right back with our intro and our guest on today. Get ready, get ready, get ready. Welcome to Emerge and Empower, the podcast where we delve into stories of resilience, triumph, and personal growth. I'm your host, Dr. Lin J, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this journey of empowerment. Each episode, we bring you inspiring conversations with individuals who have faced challenges head on, emerged stronger, and are now making a positive impact in their communities. Whether it's overcoming adversity, pursuing passions, or navigating the twists and turns of life, our guests share the valuable insights and lessons. Yes, yes, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Like we say, something good is going to happen in this year. And I believe every time that we get up and every time that we emerge, there's something good that's happening. We're better. We're a better person. We're more mature. We have better insight. We have discernment. We're moving better. And like I always say, if your former years was in tears and in pain, your latter years has to be transformative. So he will wipe every tear from your eye, and your future, your now as you move forward, should be one of confidence where you've turned your pain into purpose and your mess into a message, because we just can't go down like that. So on today, as you can see, my beautiful, beautiful guest here on today, her name is Mindi, known as the Fenyx, and she's the embodiment of resilience and bassadery, with three children at her side and a lifetime of battles behind her. Mindi is a living testament to the unstoppable force of the human spirit, battling through the gripes of toxic marriages with traumatic endings, deep depression, financial ruin, homelessness, morbid obesity. She emerged stronger, fiercer, and more determined than ever, refusing to be defined by the struggles of her past. Okay, she is an emergence, guys. She is an emergence. She never lost sight of the ultimate goal to create a better life for herself and her children, and to show others that what is possible when you refuse to give up on yourself and your dreams. Through her transparent sharing of her own journey and her practical strategies for success, she doesn't just inspire, she empowers. Mindi isn't just a leader, she's a visionary. I love that. A guiding light to those who dare to learn. To dream, and a relentless champion for those who refuse to settle for anything less than extraordinary. All right. Whether gracing the stage of captivating audience through the digital realm, Mindi commands attention with her infectious energy and magnetic presence. But beneath the surface lies a woman of depth, all right, and nuisance, whose laughter as contagious as her determination to lift others up. Mindi isn't just a name. She is a revolution. A conversation with her isn't just words exchanged, it's a journey of self discovery, a catalyst for transformation in a world full of noise. Mindi is a beacon of hope and inspiration, a reminder that no matter how dark the night may seem, the dawn, hallelujah, always brings possibilities. Mindi, you just basically talked about my purpose in a nutshell. Every word that's in your bio, I have expressed in my women's group. I have expressed in my prayer group. I say, though it's the darkest of the night, actually, it's the dawn of a new day. Don't look at the darkness, but see it as a new day. Everything in this inspiration, you would have said, I wrote this bio, okay?
I love
You
that.
would have, oh my God, I just love it. And I love when you turn your mess into message and your pain into purpose. And I know In those processes, it's not an easy road. In those times, you're not feeling that you're strong. In those times, you're not feeling empowered. But you know what I love about it is it may be dark for a little while, but the sun must come out. Mindy, go ahead and welcome your audience on today to Emerge and Empower.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. The Emerge and Empower title was so in alignment with my story, my journey. Thank you all so much for being here. Definitely share with your friends. I just barely started sharing my story publicly. So this is going to be really awesome. I'm so excited for this conversation. I'm really looking forward to seeing whatever wants to come out because we're just going to ad lib this and see whatever gets inspired to share. But definitely giving all the mothers a shout out since this is May and it's the
Yay!
celebration of all the moms. So giving a shout
Clap,
out to all the
moms.
moms. And cheers to you for your success. I'm so excited for your accomplishments.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am a mother that has gone through a lot, okay? But today
Mm,
is not about me. Those who are used to me, they know my story. And my daughter says it all the time, Mom, it's like every time you tell your story, kids already know what their mom or parents are going to say. We can't keep up with you, Mom. It's like the story is always different. And I had to
mm,
read your book and say, wow, Mom, you're my mom. And I didn't know you went through all these experiences. So it's not something
mhm.
repetitive like you said, well, yeah, when I was a little girl, I did this or that. It's never the same because
Yeah,
I've gone through so many experiences and I can spend time on each one of them and break it down further. So, Mindy,
yeah.
I'm truly happy to have you here on today as a mother. And I salute you as a mother who's gone through it and stand with your children and push through for your children. And I can say today, you were once existing, but now you are living. Amen. You
Yes.
are now living. And that's how come you can come on this platform and share your story. Now, we're
Mhm.
going to just start off from the beginning. Give us a little intro about who Mindy is, just a little bit about you, where you're from, where you were born, just a little bit about you.
Well, born and raised in the Albuquerque, New Mexico area. I currently live in Texas, but San Diego is where I would consider my home.
Okay.
So I am a single mom, solo mom, independent mom, whichever way you prefer to refer to that. I have three children. My oldest is currently 25, and my son just turned 16 yesterday, and my youngest daughter is 14.
Wow, that says a lot in this day and age. And I do commend you for being a mother that stands for your children. So we're going to get right into your story. And I like to start from the beginning so we're
Yeah.
not just at the end. So at this time, let us get into your story. Let us get
Mhm.
into who this resilient woman is today. Let's get right into it, Mindy.
Sounds good. Okay, so to give you a little bit of background, I mean, to start at the beginning, my journey as a mother started very young. As you probably did the math a little bit, I'm 44, my oldest is 25. So I had my oldest daughter when I was 19. And to kind of rewind a little bit from there, I did not have what I would consider to be a happy childhood. Like many of us, we
Right,
have our issues growing up, and oftentimes we are in environments that aren't necessarily conducive to environments that would uplift and inspire and encourage. I was told oftentimes that I was stupid, I was good for nothing. I would never amount to anything. I was told one time that if any man was stupid enough to marry me, that he would guarantee a divorce within 5 years. And so, needless to say, I did not have a lot of self confidence. I was very insecure. I was also born a very sensitive, you may have heard the term highly sensitive person. So,
hmm
I'm someone who I feel things very deeply. I love
hmm
deeply. I hurt deeply. I'm very empathetic. And so, when you're a child, you don't have the personal growth or the emotional intelligence to understand that the things that people are saying to you are really from their own woundings, from their just projections being placed on you from their
right.
own lens that they choose to view life. So I at the stroke of 18, I could not wait to get out of the house. So I had met someone at church, and I immediately moved out of the house as soon as I turned 18, got pregnant soon after, married at 18, had my daughter when I was 19. And about 3 years later, when I was 21, um, my ex-husband, my husband then at the time, was police showed up at my doorstep, excuse me, picked him up, and I found out that he had been, engaging in criminal behavior. So he was put in prison. And so at the age of 21, I was a single parent for the first time.
Mm.
And, most people are graduating from college or partying, living it up. I had a 2-year-old
Right.
and was finding myself needing to move back in with my parents. So I had someone to help with my daughter while I went back to work. I was a stay-at-home mom before then. And
Hmm.
then about, I think it was about 2.5 years later, I got remarried. I thought that I had, been around the block, learned some lessons, gained some life experience from what I had
Right.
previously been through. And I got remarried. And this was also someone that I originally had met through church many, many years before. We had
Okay.
disconnected for a long time, but our families knew each other and our sisters were best friends when they were kids. So I
Okay.
remarried. And in this case, it turned out to be exponentially worse than the first.
Wow.
And it was a slow fade. It wasn't something, women who end up in these
Hmm.
toxic, abusive relationships, you don't start out that way typically.
Right.
It's very different, and
Right.
it's a slow fade. So I want to acknowledge that for a second, because there's a lot of women who are ashamed, who are in these types of relationships or have been in a toxic or abusive relationship, because other women will look at that and say, I would never be in that. I would never allow myself to be treated that way. I could
Right.
never end up in a situation like that. And there are so many women who are brilliant women, educated women, who end up in these situations, and you would never dream that that would become your life. And somehow, over time,
Yeah.
it's like I said, it's a slow fade. It's very complex. And
Yeah.
so I want to, for anybody who is or has been in a relationship like that, I just want to say quickly, give yourself a lot of compassion, a lot of grace, a lot of kindness, because I know for my own self and my own journey that I would have never expected my life to turn out the way that it did.
Hmm.
Um, but looking back, I was able to see red flags that I didn't see at the time, just because now I have more life experience, I'm more educated,
Right.
I'm more self-aware, I'm more emotionally intelligent. And
Hmm.
also, just to say to any other women who maybe haven't encountered this in their own personal life, to say, please don't judge people, because unless you can live the identical set of experiences, which is literally impossible,
Right.
I've found that, I've made judgments. I've said I would never this, or, I would always that. And then I end up in this situation. And it's like you handle it completely differently than what you would have ever thought that you did. So, yeah, I just felt the need to pause there to share that part, because I think it's very
Indeed.
important
Indeed.
for women
Indeed.
who have been in those relationships, or women who judge women who have been or are in that type
Yes,
of
and a lot
relationship.
of people judge women harshly, like you were here before, why did you get here again? But
Yep,
this cycle, it's a cycle that can repeat until you actually understand that is a cycle, or what it is that you're attracting. You understand,
exactly.
because you tend to attract what you don't want, and I'm sure there's a lot of women here who can testify to that. Are you ladies here? Let's see the hands. Let's see the testimonies, okay? Just
Mhm.
by your emojis and your likes saying, yes, I can testify. So, no, I do not believe we should be judging someone based on a relationship. No woman wants to go through a repeated cycle of pain and abuse. No one plans or sets themselves up for that. All right. And I'm glad you put a pin there, because a lot of times this is one of the reasons why victims don't even want to talk about it, because people are saying, how did you get there again? How did what did you do? What did you cause? Like it's something on the person's fault that caused these things to happen. You may continue.
There's a lot of shame attached to it. So a lot of
Hmm.
women aren't going to come forward about it for many reasons. A lot of it is shame,
Yes.
a lot of it is fear or guilt. A lot of it
Hmm.
is, because I do have women that have come to me now that I share my story. I'm very transparent intentionally, because I
Hmm.
understand that, there are a lot of women who haven't really found their voice yet. And I really want to be someone who can be a voice for those women who haven't been
Yeah.
able to really find theirs.
Yes.
Um, so to and also to educate that there are such complex dynamics that happen with these things, especially with people who are very gifted in the craft of manipulation, and with
Mhm.
gaslighting, which I didn't even understand that term until it was told to me that that's what was happening. And you don't
Yes.
even really recognize what's happening oftentimes when it is. And so, a lot of people will say to women like this, why didn't you just leave, or why don't you just
Right.
leave? And it's so complicated. You really
Yes.
can't. I mean, I've definitely been that person to be like, why don't you just freaking leave? And it's just,
Right.
it's not that easy. It's not that
Hmm.
simple. So
Mhm.
I'm sharing my story really for two reasons, because I really want to be able to inspire people to say that, you can go from the darkest of dark, the lowest depths. I mean, I was someone who was very positive in general, but because of the dynamics in the relationship and the way that
Mhm.
life unfolded, it got extremely, extremely dark and deep. The manipulation, I was always the cause for every problem in the relationship.
Ooh.
So but it was done in such a micro way that you wouldn't really understand that that's what was happening. Now I get it completely looking backwards, but at the time,
Mhm.
the way that it was done to me was very subtle, and it was also done in a way where it's not overtly abusive in a way that you're like, that's abuse. Like, you can call
Right.
it out. You don't understand that that's what's happening. For me, it was more aiming at my empathetic side. It was
Yes.
a lot of the victimization, where it's like I was the helper, I was the one that was making life amazing, and so it was kind of like all on me. So with my second husband, there was a lot of that, where he was the victim and was needing me to, help better his life and help
Mhm.
with whatever it was. I had to figure out the financial issues. We went through bankruptcy and foreclosure and losing our houses, and I was always the one that needed to figure out the solutions for everything. But it
Mhm.
it extended beyond that, and it did get eventually to be more on the um obvious more obvious abusive side, but it didn't start
Right.
out that way.
Mhm.
And it shifted once I was educated that I was being manipulated, because there was a
Right.
lot of control happening where, I needed to say where I was all the time, and it's like needing to be able to
Listen, you are
not just go out
preaching.
with
You are
friends.
preaching.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
and um if there was any questioning on my end about anything, any behaviors, it was like I was crazy, and or that because of what happened with my previous relationship, it was like, well, of course, you have questions. Of course,
Mhm.
you're wondering things, because that's what, you have all this distrust based on your previous relationship.
Right.
So they're so these people are so brilliant and intelligent that they know every possible way to
Exactly.
manipulate someone, either based off of fear dynamics or based off of your empathy, based
Mhm.
off your naivety. But they're so smart; they know every argument, and then if you try to argue, it just makes things
Yeah.
exponentially worse, and you're made to feel like a fool, because there's no way you can really argue with what they say.
Right.
So yeah, so it's very, very complex. But to fast forward, I mean, during the course of this marriage, I mean, we lost a baby late in pregnancy. We had all the financial, like I said, bankruptcy and foreclosure and
Mhm.
losing two homes. So there was a lot of that going on. But I was an emotional eater, stress eater. I got up to almost 300 pounds, and it was physically painful just to exist.
Mhm.
But because of the dynamics, we had added two children to the relationship, so we now had
Right.
two babies, and it was an enormous weight to carry with the abusive side of the relationship, the
Mhm.
constantly being made to told that I was the problem. I was um needing to, please go to therapy, please get on medication so that you can
Mhm.
fix your issues, because our family is miserable. You're a terrible mother.
Wow.
Our life is falling apart. And so I did, I went to three different therapists at one time. They were trying me on all sorts of different medications.
Mhm.
And to be honest, nothing was really feeling like it was helping it because it was situational.
Right.
And
Right.
but you sort of start to believe that okay, maybe I am the problem, maybe this is me. And so trying to fix it, and then it just kind of like it turning into being what do they call, like a ripple effect, where
Yeah.
it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And he was
Mhm.
also escalating in his issues. He came up with pain issues, and so he got
Mhm.
addicted to pain medications, and then we had to deal with a lot of, getting trying to get him off those. And so it was like I was needing to be that person that was always like pulling him up and lifting him
Pulling
up,
him
and
up.
so I felt like I had another child. It wasn't really a relationship.
Mm.
um so that in and of itself was, also affecting other aspects
Oh,
of our
sure.
relationship, because I didn't have, I felt like I was completely depleted. I felt like I was mistreated.
Mhm.
But if I tried to say anything about it, then, I was ungrateful. I was,
Right.
all those different. I'm sure there are many women who can understand these things, but
Right.
and then it got to where he was very suicidal, and so he had bought a gun, and he would keep the gun with him. And of course, that having children in the home, I was very much
Yeah.
not okay with that. But it's like, if you say you can just get it out of the house when you're
Right.
dealing with someone who is like that, and where the threats do start coming, and it's like,
Mhm.
don't think that you can leave me, and I'm going to make it easy on you. You if you even try to leave me, I'm going to make your life a living hell. And so there's all these different complexities where having children, and also two little ones, they were very,
Yes.
very little at the time when this particular behavior started happening.
Mhm.
I was very conscious of the fact that me trying to leave, and me trying to take the children, it was going to create a very, very
Mhm.
harsh situation. It could
Right.
potentially make life a lot worse, and I couldn't bear the thought of having my children out of my sight, and having, them spending 50-50 time or whatever if we had gotten
Right.
divorced. I was terrified at that thought. So I was like, you know what, this is just the bed that I made for myself. I'm just going to have to wait until my children are,
Yeah.
18, and then I'll deal with this. Um, but he would send me GPS he would disappear with our only vehicle and send me GPS coordinates and say, this is where, the car is. I can't handle life anymore. He took the gun, and,
Wow.
if you need the car, here's where it is located. So
Mhm.
I was always petrified of, coming home one day and finding him, who knows what he did to himself.
Right.
And so there was a
Right.
lot of that control, and also needing to just keep everything good, like
Right.
keep the
Right.
home environment good, and you need to make sure that everything is okay, because he might,
Mhm.
flip the lid at one point, and then, we're destitute.
Right.
So there were just a lot of different things happening, and of course, the depression just amplified the issues with uh, my physical
Physical.
body, was suffering greatly because of this, and my
Mhm.
emotions and everything. So it just all came to a head, and it turned out 11 years into the marriage that
Wow.
it came to light
11.
that 11 years. And yeah, and again, it turned out that he had, like I said, it was exponentially worse. He was
Mhm.
also put in prison.
Mhm.
I can't really go into the details about what happened with that, but
Right.
it was worst nightmare you could possibly
Mhm.
imagine.
Right.
And extremely hard, the situation, because of what it was. We had to immediately move out of the house,
Mhm.
and so we were homeless for 3 months. We had to just kinda go from person to person. If somebody
Wow.
had an extra room or something, my kids and I would just kind of hop from house to house until I
Mhm.
was able to get us into, our own place.
Right.
And also just because of the dynamics, he
Mm.
was removed from our home for a very, very, very long time, and so I had
Mhm.
to have those hard conversations with the kids, and, try and tell them. I think my youngest 2 were 5 and 6 at the time.
Mhm.
So, having to tell them, "Your dad's not coming back," and it was
Right.
the most heartbreaking conversation, because 'cause they're
Mhm.
too little to understand what's happening,
Mhm.
and it's like a death in the family. He's there one day, don't get to say
Right.
goodbye, gone the next. And so life from that point, it was indescribably hard for so many reasons. There was so much
Right.
pain, so much betrayal, so much trauma. Everybody in therapy, 4 counseling appointments a week for a long
Right.
time.
Wow.
And so trying to rebuild after that point, while
Mhm.
also trying to manage all of the emotions and all
Emotions.
of the um yeah, all of the after effects of the trauma, and needing to deal with, the complexities of the situation. I was
Right.
lumped into some of it, even though I had nothing to do with him or his behavior or what happened
Mhm.
with him and the decisions that he made, because I'm married, because, I was part of the family. People
Right.
don't understand, the complexities of the situation. So I
Mhm.
did deal with, my best friends abandoning me, and family members stopping talking to me, and, my whole
Wow.
life being shaken and flipped completely upside down, and feeling
Mm.
like I was someone who had no hope. Like, people
Wow.
talk about having the light at the end of the tunnel, and I
Right.
couldn't even imagine there being a spark ever
There was no
emerging.
light.
No light,
No
or
light.
no even hope for a light to even
Yes.
show up. And
Yes.
the only reason I stuck around, because I absolutely had those suicidal thoughts,
Right.
um, the only reason that I decided to continue was because of my children.
Right.
Um, and it's one of those things where I was so beat down and I had such a low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
I had no confidence, but at the same time, there was just this, I'm stubborn, and so there was
Mm-hmm.
this fighter in me that was like,
Right.
"This will not be how my story ends.
Right.
It will not be like, I will not stay a victim."
Right.
And ever since I was a youth, I felt like people listening to this, I'm sure in your world will understand this. I felt like God
Mm-hmm.
gave me visions of what my life
Right.
would turn out like. And I saw myself, singing and speaking on stages and really being able to make a positive impact on people. But
Right.
when you're going through those things, you're like,
No.
you drew the wrong name out of the hat on this one. That's not,
Exactly.
are you not seeing what's happening to me?
Yes.
And over
Yes.
the years, he would give me these connections to the stories of Job and the stories of Joseph, where they went through
Right.
all of these different hardships. But it's like those hardships were able to produce in them the character
Mm-hmm.
that was needed in order
Needed.
to make the impact, in order to be able to become the person that they needed to become, in
Right.
order to hold the vision and the purpose that they were put here to do.
Right.
So
Right.
it was I mean, this was a very long journey from the time, that my ex was put in prison up until the present day, where I have literally transformed every area of my life. It could
Mm-hmm.
not be anything close to what it used to be. It's
Right.
completely different in every
Mm-hmm.
possible way. I'm so different in
Right.
every way. I mean, I'm very confident, not from a pious viewpoint, but because I
Mm-hmm.
know who I am in God. I know who I am myself. I've
Right.
stripped away the parts of myself that really didn't belong, and
So
totally
basically that's like you went through an eviction process of things that did not need to be there. That's what I call it. You had to
yes.
evict the squatters, you had to evict the naysayers, you had to evict all these altars that had your name on it. Was seems like you had a sign on your head like, do this to me, this should happen to me. And I understand, because when you're going through in these processes, yes, there's more because it's been spoken over you. You know that there's more inside of you, and you know that this is not the way that you want to end. Yes, you're feeling low and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling like, what, today I don't think I'm going to make it through this day. And then you think about that, throwing the towel, literally be on the mat, like I'm down, right? And then you have this, like, what, I need to get up. I need to get up. I need to get up. I can't stay here. I need to get up. This got to be
Mhm.
different. So that was always the push, because there was greatness inside of you. So even though you couldn't see, because we go through these processes where we're not seeing, we're not hearing, we're deaf, dumb, blind, everything when you're in these situations. People will come and tell you whatever they don't know, but they
Mm.
see you, and on the outside, it looks like everything is okay, because you will still show up. You will still go to church. You will still be at work. You will still be in all of these things, but you're going through it all alone and internalizing. You're dying on the inside. It's like a bomb that is ticking, and you're like, oh my God, when this do happen, this could be very explosive, very
Mhm.
destructive, or God, please contain it for me so I don't get to this next level. So because of the greatness, because of the insight, because of that vision, because you have purpose. See, once God has purpose in you, even when you can't see, hear, touch, nothing makes sense, but you still, that hope is still there. Like, this got to be more. And just
Yeah.
looking at Job, those are just scenarios to remind you, yes, you're going through, but the glory has to come after this, right?
Yeah.
Then you look at Joseph again, and you said, you know what? He went through that. His family came against him, just like in your scenario. But again, I will be at the other side of this, God. So that was actually the light. It looked obscured, but that's what it was. I'm gonna get up. I loved it. I think a lot of people use Job. Job went through this, he lost everything, even his body.
Mhm.
And if he could go through all that, and I am a theological student and teacher and a doctor in theology, and a lot of people want to put it and surmise it and say Job was just a poet. It wasn't a real story.
Mhm.
People always try to find things to put on it, but I always go back to that place. I say, well, he went through it, and this is in my
Mhm.
word, so I could keep going and I could keep going. And then later on, you hear God say, you went through it and it wasn't for you. And you're like, wow, really? I went through that. It wasn't for me. It's my story, so I can share it. Like, I can bring for everybody. Like,
Mhm.
really, I had to go through that to get here. But Moses had to go 40 years at Pharaoh, 40 years in the desert. All of them was training him so that he can be the leader that God wanted him to be. Unfortunately, when you go to be leadership, real spiritual leadership, people who have a gift and purpose, they go through hardship, they go through detriment, they go through life and death experiences, they go through the worst because why? After
Mhm.
all is said and done, you know, God's going to get the glory because he doesn't want
Mhm.
anyone to get that glory. And he would refuse to let somebody put their hand in there to pull you out so they don't get the glory. Now you start looking at them. This person did this person. No, he pulled them all out so that when you come out, even that's why he said, when I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies, all those people who walked away, left you, they're going to look back and say, wow, I saw it. I don't know how you did it, even to the point of apologize. I still have people apologizing to me today because they knew that they could have done something or they saw things, but they chose to ignore it. But you know what? The glory is on you. The glory is on you and your children. I'm thanking you for being the mother that didn't give up because a lot of times when this happened, we shut down. And when
Mhm.
you shut down completely, not wanting to live, not wanting to step out of the house. You know, for you, it was going to eating. That was for you, that was your comfort, but at the same time, it was destroying you. And even though you knew that was happening, but that's all you had. So people don't understand why go there. That's what you had. Some it's alcohol, some it's drugs. You understand
Mhm.
me?
Mhm.
Everyone goes through something because that is all they had. You understand? So those who
Mhm.
are watching, stop being judgmental. Why is she going through this? If you see it, that if this was not the person's way or life, something changed, something clicked, it is because that's all they had. And you could speak all you want and tell that person, get in here and renew the mind. There's nothing else that could happen, you know?
Mhm.
So, yes, Mandy, I just had to come in there because, listen, yeah, my goodness, my goodness. So, you went through all these obstacles. So, we're going to continue. So, now you are years later from this, or are you still there now as far as where we are in the story?
Well, I mean, my life now is very, very different. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm glad that you said all of that because one thing that I notice is that there's a lot of people who want to push against their past and they
Mm-hmm.
want to sort of run away from it or
Right.
sweep it under the rug or just not address it. And I definitely understand that because I was that person.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of shame about it, and there's a quote that I heard one time that says, "Your story can be the key that unlocks someone else's prison."
Yes.
And I have definitely experienced that in my 20s when after I went through my first divorce and, my first husband was put in prison and I ended up a single parent overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I started singing professionally. I was sharing my story and, traveling all over the US. And I remember one girl coming up to me after the concert and she
Mm-hmm.
said that she was going through something very similar, but she wasn't telling anybody about it. She was very ashamed of it. And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, hearing you talk about that made me know that I wasn't alone. And I became obsessed
Yeah.
at that point with wanting to create what I call Me Too moments. It's like
Right.
whenever you can share, you can help someone else say me too, then you
Yeah.
are now facilitating human connection, which is one of the strongest needs and desires that I feel like we're experiencing nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
especially in
Mm-hmm.
a world where we become very fragmented with, technology and everything, which technology is great, but
Mm-hmm.
people crave to be seen. They crave to be understood, to
Yes.
know that they have value, to know that this isn't meaningless suffering, to
Yes.
understand that there's something on the other side of this. So I learned that my past was not something to run away from. It wasn't
Right.
something to be ashamed of because all I
Yeah.
saw at that point was a huge list of failures. It was like all
Yeah.
those things that were spoken into me when I was a child that I was stupid and good for nothing and,
Right.
guaranteed a divorce in 5 years. I was like, this is literally happening. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
literally a failure. I'm good for nothing. I
Hmm.
got divorced in less than 5 years, all those things.
Ooh.
So all I saw was a trail of massive mistakes and then, as I started really intentionally focusing on shifting my mindset and working on my personal development, which was one of the most important things that I did to change the
Mm-hmm.
trajectory of my life, because it doesn't
Right.
just happen. These
No.
things don't happen. I'm not who I am today because it just naturally evolved that way. It was from very intentional focus on
Yeah.
changing my perspective, changing my mindset, and also taking radical ownership, which is
Yes.
another big one. Because a lot of times, when you're a victim of something, we can get caught in this victim mentality. You can get,
Yes.
even though people can be very harsh, people
Yes.
can also be, on the flip side, very, you get a lot of sympathy, you get a
Yeah.
lot of, people feeling sorry for you, and
Right.
sometimes you can get sucked into that because it feels really good, because you feel like people actually care.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then, it's from that okay, that's fine. I mean, I understand it. I have compassion for people who are victims and end up in situations that they, didn't cause for themselves, and all of that.
Right.
But at the same time, I, came to this point where I was like, okay, you know what? No one is actually coming to save me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we have God, right? I'm not discounting that, but I'm
Right.
talking about the personal
Persons.
responsibility. God
Yeah.
doesn't do it all for you. So yes, God gets the glory, but at the same time, you have to
Yeah.
partner with that. It
Oh,
is your choice to
yes.
partner with that. So I made the choice to say, you know what? Okay, yes, things have been done to me that I, whatever, didn't
Yeah.
deserve, that I was the victim of, or whatever. But now I get to choose
Yeah.
how I want my story to end.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I had to take radical responsibility. And that meant having extremely hard conversations with myself and really going deep in those painful situations where,
Mm-hmm.
how in the world did I end up in two relationships with people who were like that, who ended up like this, even though I would have never ever known that they would end up being who they were. These are
Right.
people from church, people, close family,
That's where I
friends.
wanted to go to, because you said both of these men
Yeah.
you met at church. And I say this all the time, and people don't understand. The church is filled with broken people, all right, who
Mhm.
themselves, that's why I always say, before two people get together, you need to be a whole. There's no such thing as you're a half, I'm a half. It takes two wholes, okay, to have a
Mhm.
whole complete. Okay, so
Yeah.
if it's two halves, it's gonna be disastrous. It's gonna be issues, and the church is full of sinners, full of people who have not gone to Christ therapy, right? They've gone to church, but they've not really sat down with the therapist and allowed the therapist to bring that healing. So just because they're in church does not mean that they have actually gone through that personal journey. All right. And a
Mhm.
lot of people can say, well, she met them in church. Yes, a lot of people know that there is a God, and they go to God because they're looking for a saving grace. We're all looking for
Yeah.
saving grace. And sometimes when you find someone else, you say, okay, maybe she can help me. Maybe she's
Mhm.
my she's my helpmate. Right. But
Mhm.
no, we are not here to be somebody's savior. That's why Christ died. We can't save nobody. We can't even save ourselves.
But a
We have
lot
that
of women,
mentality when you're young. You think you
yeah.
could change. Oh, well, I could change them if they become with me. If they're in my life can influence them. I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. I was young too. Like you, I was
Mhm.
18 when I got married, went through everything. I wrote a book about what you just said, understanding
Yep.
that. And I had to realize there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of things going on. And he was supposed to be, he's older, 15 years older, which means he should have
Mhm.
been more mature. Hello. And in the church, come on, the church is full of broken people. I was
Mhm.
broken, he was broken. We brought two brokenness together that couldn't mesh because the puzzle couldn't fit.
Mhm.
I was not that part to complete it. Right? So we need to be whole. For all of you who are trying to get married, you could probably be sitting right now in front of a counselor thinking you can fix him or her. No, it does not work. Work on you first before you decide to bring anyone else in the equation. Worst thing you can do is bring children into your brokenness. All right, because all you're doing is creating more of that. You got to be whole. It takes two whole to make a complete. Okay, not two halves. That math ain't mathing when it comes to the spiritual things and things of life. That don't work. All right, that don't work. You may continue, Mindy, because whoo, Jesus.
Yeah, no, I get you. I did have to look back and say, how did I attract this? Even though I wouldn't have known, I'm on the other side of it now. So hindsight is
Mhm.
always 2020. And if you have those honest conversations with yourself, which are very hard because it takes a lot of auditing of your
Yeah.
own self, honestly, because a lot of times we tend to place blame on the other person. And of course, there's plenty of blame to place on the other person in certain situations. But um, still, I had to do that internal reflecting and to say, okay, what
Mm-hmm.
common themes was I noticing? What was
Yeah.
my part to own? Because I do have a part to own in terms of I wouldn't have attracted these relationships if
Mm-hmm.
there weren't certain parts of myself that
Right.
had activated that, you know. And
Right.
so learning those things, which I mean, I would say one of the most pronounced things that I would say
Mm-hmm.
that people like this intentionally seek out people like I was
Right.
because I was very insecure, I was very naive, I
Pray.
was
Pray.
very empathetic, I had a very kind heart. I was someone who really wanted to help people, which all of these are great qualities.
Right.
However, they can be qualities that tend to be uh in combination, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you have empathy, if you're a kind person, if you want to
Yeah.
help people, and that is coupled with being insecure, having a
Right.
low self-image, and you know, when that combination is like an explosion waiting to happen.
Explosion.
It is the and not to say that that type of person, and they are plenty, I would say that that's probably a large percentage of us
Right.
women out there are
Mm-hmm.
in that position. So that's why a large percentage of women end up in, you know, toxic abusive relationships because
Mm-hmm.
people tend you attract people who feed
Yes.
into that.
Yes.
And you also like you kind of hit on, it's like us as women, we like to be the nurturers, we like to be the helpers, we tend to want to, you know, like you said, save people. You have a little bit of the savior complex, or the
Mm-hmm.
rescuing, you're rescuing someone.
Right.
So any of that dynamic in a relationship is absolutely unhealthy,
Yes.
absolutely unhealthy. So I always do encourage women because I do get a lot of women who come to me saying, how do I keep attracting these men? And it's like, do you actually want to know? Or is it just that, you
Want
know,
to know
you're
the
kind of,
truth?
because a lot of, okay, let's be real. Okay. There's a lot of girls who just want to get together for their happy hours and just kind of gripe and moan about their relationships or about what's
Yes.
happening with their man. And they're having all of these dynamics that they don't like.
Right.
And it's like, it how much personal responsibility are we taking for that? Because
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, we're probably not taking as much as we should.
Yes.
And you don't have to be in a relationship like that, as much
Right.
as you convince yourself that for whatever reason you need to, or you can't, or you know, can't get out, whatever. I understand it because I've been there. You've heard part of my story.
Right.
So I really always tell women, just like you were saying, the best thing that you can do for yourself and for your hope to have a wonderful relationship is
Mm-hmm.
really to do that internal work, that hard work that most people don't do because it's freaking hard.
It's
It
hard.
feels yucky because you have to really kind of unearth the dark parts of your life, yourself. You have to kind of really like stir those up to the surface, and which
Yes.
always feels miserable. It's like one of those things where it has to get worse before it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going through that, I mean, it was like crying all day, every day. It was
Oh,
very
jeez.
hard. It was very dark. It was very heavy. But it's like, if you can really see it as that cliche saying of removing layers of the onion, it's
Yeah.
like crying, talking about it, getting stuff out. It's not,
Yeah.
you're not doing it for the purpose of just griping about something. Because if you do,
Right.
you're just attracting more of that. I'm just going to tell you, if you're just griping and moaning about stuff, I get it, but it's just going to attract more of that. What you
Right.
focus on amplifies. So,
Right.
but if you're doing it with the intention of I'm healing this, I'm getting it out, I'm moving it out of my system, out of my body, out of my consciousness, out of my
Yes.
subconsciousness, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you do that hard work, you're able to emerge into a different state, not
Yeah.
only as a human, but energetically. You have you attract different dynamics into your life. You'll notice different people start coming into your life. You'll
Right.
notice that you have more confidence, you have more self-assuredness. You're not looking
Yes.
anything external. If you're looking to anything external for your value, whether that be a relationship, a financial status, a bank balance, a
Right.
career, an education, anything of that, that is truly meaningless. And that's something that I really had to learn, which took a
Right.
long time. And it's still something that, you know, I still have very tiny remnants that show up about worthiness because that was a very deep
Mm-hmm.
pattern for me.
Right.
But it's like when you can truly understand that your value is absolutely unshakable. It is static. It is there. It is unchanging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not from a place of piousness, or you're better than anybody else, or conceit, or
Right.
anything like that. Truly loving yourself because you are an amazing human being, regardless
That's
of
it.
whatever has happened to you,
That's
regardless of
it.
whatever has been in your past. None of
Mm-hmm.
that matters. And to be quite honest, I know I'm getting a little fired up here, but
Come on, because it's necessary.
I am like so passionate about this because I get chills when I talk about it, because
Yes.
now I see my past, even though I would never wish this on anybody. And I'm
Right.
certainly not trying to minimize anybody's pain that they've been through, but
Right.
I am who I am. I am this strong, fierce, confident person.
Right.
I am doing, things out there that are impactful in a positive way because of who I am, and who I am is because of all of the things that have happened in my past that I have emerged from.
That's
So
it.
how could I possibly begrudge all of that? How could I
Right.
possibly try and push against it? Because
Right.
all of that is part of what formed me,
That's
along
it.
with me intentionally choosing how I was going to perceive those things that happened to
Yeah.
me. I embraced the whole of it. And
That's it.
also, I do want to say something, because I spent a lot of time being hateful towards my past self. I had a lot of negative self-talk,
Mm-hmm.
really had beat myself up a lot about a lot of things, which is
Right.
it just does nobody any good. And so now I remember there was a post that I made that went kind of viral, and it was where I posted a picture of my past self
Mm-hmm.
and a current picture. And I used to look at that picture of my past self and feel so much disgust. And I was
Right.
like, why did you do that to yourself? Why did I was so frustrated that I made the
Mm-hmm.
choices that I made, and that whatever, looked the way that I looked, and all that kind of stuff. I
Right.
couldn't almost stand to look at it. I would cringe whenever I would look at that picture. And
Mm-hmm.
now the way that I see everything is so different. I wrote a letter to my past self, and I highly recommend that every woman does this, and that
Yes.
you maybe even get a picture of a picture that you feel cringy about, right?
Right. Right.
Because what I did is, now when I look at her, I see, and I put this in third person because this is a past
Mm-hmm.
version of me,
Right.
but
Right.
obviously it's still me. But when I look at her, I I see the eyes, and I see how much pain was in there. I
Yeah.
see how much heaviness and darkness she was carrying physically,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, mentally, spiritually.
Right.
And I am like, girl, you were an absolute bleepity bleeping warrior. Like you were, you felt weak. You felt like
Right.
you were done. You felt like you were broken. You thought that you
Mm-hmm.
were over.
Right.
And look, like, you stepped into one more day. You
Yeah.
chose to
You
stick
still push
around
through.
for one more day. Like, you are a rock star. You are amazing. And it's like I realized that it was her that walked me to who I am today. It
That's
was
it.
like not this other person that
No.
was like this failure, this depressed, this,
No.
morbidly obese, and then automatically she just woke up one morning and turned into
Right.
this other person. No,
No.
she, step by step, one day, one
Small
choice,
steps.
every micro decision that she
Yeah.
made over the course of the days, the weeks, the months, the years, that
Right.
turned me into the person that I am today. So I feel like it's very important that we show so much compassion, so much grace towards every version of ourselves, and
Yes.
not push away from it, not feel shame about her. Have so much love for her. Look at the
Yes.
past version of yourself, and forgive yourself for the things that you didn't know at the time. How can you hold yourself accountable? How can you
Mm-mm.
hold your past self accountable for things
No.
that you know now? You
That's
didn't.
it.
There was no way. You did the best
Yes.
that you could with who you were at the
Yes.
time, the support you had at the time, the resources you had at the time, the maturity that you had at the time, the emotional intelligence, the self awareness,
All of them.
all of it. You
All of
did the
it.
best that you could. So I feel like
All of
that's
it.
something all of us need to hear, is to
All of
really,
it.
like, give yourself some compassion,
It is
because
so
it is
true,
a mess. Life
Mindy.
is messy.
Before we end, I believe we have to do a part two because there's so much more we still haven't touched. I do have segments that go into, and I believe this is that segment because once you find people who are being truly transparent, sharing their story, not ashamed of their story, embracing who they are, and getting out of that victim mentality, and that
Yeah,
is actually liberating and it will pull others, it
yeah,
truly pulls others and they can draw from that energy, because you've gone through. All right. And that's the whole reason for Emerge and Empower, for those who have gone through and come on, not to be cute about it, because even when I found myself, I had to become mean. And I was not a mean
Yes.
person.
Thank you for saying that. I
Oh my
love
God.
that.
I
I'm
had
like,
to be
some
the
people will
no
think you're a
person
B
instead of
word.
stop being the yes person. And I felt bad for
Yes.
saying no.
Yep.
I felt bad for just for having my voice. I
Yep.
was always apologizing for things that I did not do. So I had to stand to myself and said, no, you did not do this. You're not apologizing for this. You are
Yes.
not owning this. All right. And it was like I was a kitten, always frightened by sound. Right. And then after each experience, because after every scar, after every hit, after every abuse, every thought, everything that people throw at you, you're still growing. The kitten is still growing, and then now you become a lioness, and now you got a roar, but they don't understand the depth of your roar, what it means to show up for yourself and be on the front row seat of yourself. And I just want to pull women when I see them and I said,
Yes.
let's go, get
Yes.
up, there's more
Yes.
to you in this. And I was like, where were people like this when I was there? Where were
Exactly.
they? I didn't know
Exactly.
anyone. I didn't see anyone that was being transparent, telling their story, not ashamed of their story,
Yep.
or giving all these cliches. Oh my God, I used to hate cliches when I was
Oh,
going through. Why
yeah.
are you telling me that I already know that? Pray on it. Yes, I've been praying.
Yeah.
I've
Yep.
fasted. you know, I've
Or it's
probably
like
done
all
more
things
than
work together
you.
for good.
You know,
Yay.
you know, there's this, and I was like, I don't want to hear that. You
Yeah.
are not in my shoes. You can tell people who
Yeah.
are just giving you these empty fillers with no meaning.
Yeah.
And I'm
They
like,
don't know what to
no.
say.
In my mind, I'm like, just shut up, like be quiet. Back then, that's what I said in my mind, but now I say it outright. Be quiet. You don't know what you're talking
You
about.
don't know.
I
Yep.
shut it down. You understand me? And I just don't bring things in. Amen. I don't bring things in. So
Yep.
this is, oh my God, amazing, amazing, amazing. So we must come back. But before we close, we need to talk about the things, okay? Because you want to be identified as that. And it's fierce to be, all right? That could be broken down. I don't know if you have an abbreviation for that, but let's talk about that because we're coming back. There will be a part two, okay? There will be a part two. You ladies need to stay tuned. Bring your girlfriends in, bring your mom in, bring your sister in, bring everyone in because we are real women coming on this platform here bringing healing, all right? Bringing the antidote that you needed because I wish somebody was in my face, all right? Telling
Yep.
me, yes, I went through this, but there is more after this. Get up from there. Because I had those days where I stayed in bed for 2 days. I didn't feel like getting out of bed. I was
Yes.
suicidal until I was 28 years old, until I saw my daughter being 7 years old to forgive myself. And then
Mm.
my healing didn't start because we put things behind us. We
Yep.
share little parts of our story and we feel a little empowered, right? But then what
Hmm.
happens after everyone is gone, the makeup is gone, the dressing, all of that is gone. We
Yep.
go back to our bed and we're still broken, but then we still have to get up because
Yep.
even though it's the darkest of the night, it's actually the dawn of a new day. And that
Hmm.
has always been it. So now I have purity segments for young people, and it has brought a life on its own. Why? Because you turn your pain into purpose and your mess into a message. So let's talk about the
Hmm.
things, and we're going to come back. Listen, stay tuned. We will be back. This is a mother's story in this month of May, encouraging you mothers, all right? Encouraging you daughters. You might not have children yet, but this is to help you in your future. Heal. Don't go in broken and into any relationship. Spend time. I don't care how big that ring is that he's putting on your finger. See the signs. Love is not blind. You choose to ignore it. What you ignore today is gonna haunt you tomorrow. So don't ignore anything. Face it, deal with it. All right? Let's talk about the face.
The Phoenix. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the Phoenix is my stage name. It was actually given to me by the first time was by one of my daughter's classmates. And I was working in the concession stand helping out at one of her games and he walked up to me and said, "Hey, Miss Phoenix." And I was like, why are you calling me Miss Phoenix?" And he said, "Because
Mm-hmm.
you rose above the ashes." It's like I developed this reputation even in the school or the communities that I was part of
Mm-hmm.
that that I was like the woman who, took charge of her life, overcame
Mm-hmm.
all of the fire, the daggers.
Mm-hmm.
So I oftentimes was referred to as Miss Phoenix or the Phoenix, and people in social media circles and all over my Instagram, Facebook, and everything were always
Mm-hmm.
continuously calling me the Phoenix. And so I'm entering into a what I would say is my soul's purpose phase. Remember how I
Right.
told you how God had given me this vision over my life, and
Mm-hmm.
that I would be doing these things. And so
Right.
this podcast tour that I'm doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
as the Phoenix, getting into that identity which was given to
Mm-hmm.
me, and
Right.
that God put into my life, my world, as a symbol of women's empowerment, as a symbol
Right.
of locking into that. I'm doing the podcast tour, and then I'm writing my first book this year,
Right.
and also getting into touring, speaking, getting back into singing, which is
Right.
one of the biggest ones for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not sure what else you had to ask about that, but that's
Well, as you are speaking, uh, your stage is getting bigger.
yes.
You're going to meet people that's going to take you. Okay, they're going to be destiny helpers. And as you tell your story, you're going to be in the front of hundreds and thousands. The numbers will be changing. All
Right.
right. Stay true to you.
Oh yes.
Remember where you came from,
Always.
and remember your goal is, and remember, because it was always for you, if I could reach one, never forget, if I could reach one, that I've done my part. I don't
Yeah.
care if there are millions in the front of you. Always have that heart looking for that one.
One. Yep.
As you're reaching that one, you're reaching 100, you're reaching 1,000, you're reaching 1,000,000. Stay on that number, because
Yes.
that number is going to keep you grounded, and
Yep.
that is your ministry. All
Yeah.
right. That is your ministry. And that ministry is going to bring ministries. And everything that you have started, you will accomplish, you will finish.
Mhm.
As you go to sing, there are going to be those who, from that hurting place, who also has that vocal voice that you are going to be pulling in with you. They're
Yep.
going to be in your background. Some you're going to even train that is going to surpass you, because what
Mhm.
you're doing is being that bridge. And God is trusting you with that assignment, because it doesn't matter what you pour into someone. It doesn't matter if they go beyond you, because for you, I did my part. And so God is saying he's trusting you with this assignment, because
Mhm.
this is what he's giving you. All
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
And everything that you have thought, some visions you haven't even implemented, it's time to write it down, because some thoughts that he's given you, you think them, but you actually did, you need to journal. You're going to be getting up at certain hours when I'm really tired, Lord. I know those are times where he's going to be downloading. You're just writing. Some
Mhm.
of them are just going to be subjects, like titles.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Eventually, you will understand what they are for. Write them down.
Yeah.
Remember the date. Remember what you are going through. Remember what you were thinking. Remember what happened that caused you. Write all of those, because as you bring those together, that is what's going to bring your message together. All right.
Mhm.
Now,
Yep.
this book, once this book come out, there are volumes.
Oh,
All
yeah,
right.
definitely
There
volumes
are
of books. Yeah.
volumes. All right. There are volumes from this, but this has to be the
Mhm.
base. See, this is the
Yep.
base, and you got to pour. Don't say, I don't want to give all. You pour in all, because there's more.
Yes. 1,000%. Yep.
Okay.
Right with
There's
you.
more. And he's adding them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now, I don't. People around me say I'm prophetic. I just go on what God say to me. I don't say
Oh,
what I didn't
100%.
see. I don't
Yeah.
go based on feeling. Okay,
Yep.
I'm not one who's gonna be up there just how they say tie a bow tie, da da da. I don't get into all of that. I
Yes.
only say what I see, and I move on. You
Yep.
understand? And
Same, girl. Yes.
that is what God is doing now.
Yep.
Your children, all right? Some of the things that you wanted to do, they are going to become what they manifest.
Yes.
Some of the dreams that you wanted to do, that is because they will manifest in your children.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay? That will manifest in your children, and now you're going to nurture that. And you're going to say, wow, this was something that I wanted, but so and so has connected to this, so and so has connected to this, and you're going to push that because they're the continuation for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Have those moments where you just sitting on the floor and say, everybody, this says, have a let's love on each other moment. All right. Have those moments. Have those moments when you feel like, you know what, I wonder what so and so. Don't ignore the minute they come to your thought or your mind. Hey, come out here. I know you're busy and whatever this is you're doing, let's talk. We need to talk right now. I need this moment with you, because those are the times where the Lord wants to continue working, because the enemy comes to attack your seed, and
Mm-hmm.
he is putting a shelter around your seed to protect your seed as you tell your story.
Yeah.
Every form of retaliation, anything like that, is coming against it. So when you're praying, you're covering your children and all of these areas. So there's no repeated cycle, and say, Father, it stopped with me. It's not going down beyond any generation. I am transfused now with the blood of Jesus. So
Yep.
therefore, nothing is crossing over.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
nothing is
Yes.
crossing over, because let
Yeah.
me tell you, there is so much that is coming. You are gonna start traveling. All
Yes.
right,
Oh,
you might be
100%. Yep.
virtually traveling right now, but
Yes.
you will be traveling. So get your
For sure.
passports ready. You
Yep.
will be going international as well. All
Yes.
right.
Yep.
So all of these is happening. Get everybody passport ready. So when you got to go, hey, we're leaving, you
Yep.
know. So these are what God is going to do. So get ready
Yes.
to be on the stages
Yep.
before women empowerment. All right. There's a lot of empowerment stages that you're going to be on. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be in schools. You got to be in schools. All right. Bringing that in, because it's necessary. All right.
Yep.
It's necessary. We got to come back. Lord, we got to come back. We didn't get into it. We didn't get into it. Y'all know me. I always have a few questions and all of that, but we just let it flow. Okay. We just
Yes.
let it flow. We will be back. All right. And you have rise from the ashes. Because even when you were telling your story, diamond come from very toxic environment. All right. Diamonds come from very toxic, dark environment. And
Mm-hmm.
when you see a diamond, it doesn't look like a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
It takes someone with a special eye to realize it's a diamond, to brush it, polish it. All right.
Yep.
So you've arise out of that. All right. And healing is in that. Strength is in that. All right. Those who have been contemplating suicide, he's giving you grace in that area to be able to pull people from that place. So do spend time on prayer. I don't know your prayer life, but that should always be your center. Have a very strong prayer life. When it gets confused or overwhelmed, or people are calling you, pray, because not everywhere they call you, you will be going. So you pray about some of these places. If you do
Oh,
not feel, yeah.
yeah, I'm very, that's one thing that I've spent a lot of intentional, focus on
Mm-hmm,
is my spiritual attunement. And
mm-hmm,
I really am, I say fortunate. Everybody has access to this, but you have to
right.
intentionally tune into it. And so
Mm-hmm,
I always operate from a state of spiritual guidance, and I can
mm-hmm,
always intuitively know whether something's for me or not. And that's something
right.
that God has very clearly told me, is that I am
Right.
picking every person that's meant to be part of your mission,
Yeah.
and you will know it. And I've been seeing that He's been bringing
Yeah.
people into my world that, some want to be a part of it, and it's very clear that it's not
Yeah.
necessarily like the best match, and that's totally okay. But then there are
Yeah.
others that definitely have that divine orchestration
Mm-hmm.
element to it, and so it's really awesome to see that. I mean, He truly is leading and guiding every single thing.
Right.
So it's a
Okay.
beautiful thing to
So
experience. Yeah.
that's good. So everyone, like I said, we've got to go because we've gone
Yes.
over here by a few minutes, but we will be back. We will be back for part two. So look for part two. All right. It might be right after this part, but just look for part two. So you just have to tune in so you'll be able to do that. Any last messages before we close off today for our
Mm.
audience?
I would just, just a quick reminder that, you're stronger than you can even possibly imagine. You're more beautiful than you realize. You're more powerful than you think. And, really just being able to tune into your own intuition, your gut. Your gut says a lot, and we're
Mhm.
trained to kind of shut down our gut, to quiet our gut, but listen to your gut, even if it's seeming like it doesn't make sense, and,
Right,
really follow what feels authentic to you, regardless of what anybody else says to you,
right.
thinks, really setting aside what people
Hmm.
think and what they say, and standing true to your own core self, speaking your
Right.
truth, even if it's scary. I mean,
Yes.
that will bring healing to you and so many other people in the process.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
Now,
you.
where our audience can find you, is there a place that they can follow you? Instagram? What are your handles?
Yes, Instagram would be at the Phoenix, and I have a website, thephoenix.com. It's at the Fenyx.com. And yeah, I mean, I'm all over YouTube, Facebook, so yeah, everywhere.
All right. Thank you so much for being
Thank you.
a guest here on Emerge and Empower. And indeed, it has been a blessing. And I believe you, my audience, are blessed. So do reach out to Mindy on those platforms. We will share all the links in the bio. And again, stay tuned for part two. Thank you so much, Mindy, for being a guest on Emerge and Empower.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So we're thanking you for your presence here on today. We're thanking you for being in the audience. And remember, everyone has a story to tell. Do you have a story to tell? Are you ready to talk about it? All right. Are you ready to talk about it? Because your life is a testimony. If you're existing today, if you're living today, it is because of the grace of God. And I do want to thank you for tuning in to Emerging Empower. Come on with your stories. I also speak Creole, no parle Creole. So no la, so pa ka pale anglais, ou kapab vini la, nou kapab fè li an Creole. So langaj la pa yon problem pou nou kapab fè li, si ou pale anglais, na fè li an anglais, si ou pale Creole, na fè li an Creole, paske platform nan se pou tout moun, se pou le moun entier, nou tout kote, nou an Afrik, nou Canada, nou Bahamas, tout kote kapab wè nou, pase nou sou rezo sosyo. All right. So basically, I was just speaking in Creole, letting everyone know that everybody has a story. I am bilingual. We can do the segments in English, we can do the segments in Creole, because that's what we are here for. And we are international. So I thank everybody for coming on here. And do you have a story to tell, or know somebody that has a story to tell? Well, go ahead and tell them to come into Emerging Empower and connect with me, yours truly, Dr. Lin J. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.